Breah, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so stoked.
Yeah. Okay, so wanted to start off by talking about you've got this event coming up. You had written this awesome little post about it that kind of started this.
Yeah,
So I'm going to read a little bit off of that and then maybe you can
absolutely.
talk about it. Because you're talking about, so Western yoga is performative, a sham, imitation at best, and at its worst, sinister. This isn't a new idea, it's been spoken to. I am far from the first. It's been called a workout class, colonized, bastardized, exploited, racist. All is true. And then you continue on here. But like, I wanted to start off by just talking about like, how would you describe your type of yoga as different from the Western type of yoga that you're talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. So my training in yoga, well, my training in general, I come from a tantric background and then I went and did my yoga training. My specific type of yoga that I'm trained in is like, it's what we call the Shakti path or the experiential path. So Shakti is the feminine, the goddess. And usually, what we're used to in a typical kind of yoga class is the Shiva or the masculine, the God sort of consciousness with it. So, the way that it was explained to me is that Shiva is like consciousness, Shakti is energy.
Okay.
So, when you follow the Shakti path, you're going through experience more than you are going through knowledge, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
Okay.
So when we did our whole training for the first week, they were like, okay, we have books here that kind of explain how this practice goes, but we don't want you reading any of them until like at least a week in.
Hmm.
So we want you to experience first and then the knowledge will come later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting. It's kind of like how people practicing music, like you can learn it from a book, but there's like, you're not fully going to get anything out of that, I think, right?
Yes, exactly. Until you like sit down and play and experiment within yourself and what's coming through you, what's coming through the body, what's coming through, the chemistry and the mysticism of the mind, rather than just like trying to do this regimented thing that you've learned.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So, like, let's talk a little bit more about the event that you are planning coming up.
Mhm.
Because you've got this really great set of musicians that's playing with you,
Yes.
brackets.
Yes.
Uh, what's this going to look like, and kind of what is this event kind of gonna look like?
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So, the musicians that I have in this, they're all friends of mine. They're wonderful people, but I've also followed their music for like a long time. Um, and I was sitting down and I was talking with Mike Polito, who, I was just talking about like I was rebranding and I was like, hey, like what am I gonna do to kind of promote this whole thing and do something that I can continuously redo and stuff. And
Hmm.
people love yoga, so I want to kind of do that. I had this idea for like doom metal yoga almost, which is not my idea. I've seen this.
Wait, this has been done by other people?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, not
okay.
around here, but
Eh,
yeah. And so I was talking with him about it, and he was like, "Oh, I can help you make a playlist, whatever." And then we went into it a little bit, and he was like, "Oh, I wish I had this one song recorded, because I could just play that forever." And I was like,
well,
"Could you
why
play
don't you?
it forever?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it came from. And I was like, "Well, why don't we do this with like live music?"
Hmm.
And that to me speaks to like the intuitiveness of the practice because it's laid out, but it's not going to be um like regimented. It's not going to have a plan. It is there's planning, but it's
There's a bit of
improv.
flexibility in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, improv jams, improv yoga almost.
Okay.
So the way that it's going to kind of, like, you want me to go through
Yeah,
how
sure.
it's laid out?
Why
Yeah.
not?
So we have essentially, I've centered it around Kali Ma, who is the goddess of destruction and rebirth and liberation. She's associated with big concepts like time and the void and like warrior consciousness and that sort of
Okay.
stuff. So she's a lot more than that, but I wanted to put that sort of and her music is said to be metal music and like deep kind of like rock sort of stuff.
Okay.
Which you normally would
get
not associate
The
with yoga,
association makes sense though with like
right?
destruction itself, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like destruction of patterns and things that are holding you back so that you can kind of grow into something new, which is like,
Honestly, my experience every time I've been at like a metal show where it's like, because you would think metal people would be these like violent, psychopathic, crazy people,
oh,
but it's more of like a doing that at a contained event is like how you vent that energy.
right?
I think, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And like always the nicest people
They're always
ever.
so like it's almost funny how nice they are when you're talking to like a guy with like skull face paint on it. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. And I find too, it's like some of the most spiritual people I know aren't spiritual at all. And I'm like, those are the kind of people I'm talking about, where it's like, I think because you're doing this, it's so like centered in the self and body centric and stuff when you attend these shows and when you play this music, that it's like, of course these people are way more spiritual than like somebody who does yoga every day, and you know what I mean. Yeah, so I've centered it around Kali Ma, and I wanted to go through 3 stages of yoga, which I've associated with these Ayurvedic concepts called the doshas.
Okay.
So the first stage is kapha, which is associated with air. Not air. Earth and water.
Okay.
The second stage is pitta, which is associated with fire and water. And the third stage is vata, which is associated with air and ether, which is like space, basically.
okay.
Yeah. Each segment is 20 minutes long. And then in between each of them is going to be a tantric exercise.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I guess another question that's maybe not so easy to answer, but you have to ask it. What is Tantra?
oh, that's my favorite question.
I get the sense you could talk about this for the whole hour on its own.
Yeah. Well, that's what I say to people. It's like, people are like, give me an elevator pitch. And I'm like, how long is the elevator ride? Like, how
Well, and
long?
I was like trying to do like some research last night to like talk about this. And you're like, oh, there's like 50 different people with 50 completely different descriptions of this.
Well, it's because it's such a broad concept. The interesting thing about Tantra is that it's not, a lot of people, I think, misinterpret it as a religion, which it's not. Kind of makes sense, like considering where it came from and like the path that it's followed. But it can actually be applied to any religion. The way that I usually break it down in a digestible, reasonable amount of time is to look at the Sanskrit of the word Tantra, which comes from Tantoi, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, and Trayati, which essentially means expansion and liberation.
Okay.
Another translation of the word Tantra itself can be tool, it can be to weave. There's a couple of different translations of it. But the way that I explain it is that it is an instrument for expansion and liberation. Which is like is so far from what people think Tantra is. People, I mentioned I teach Tantra. People are like, oh, like Sting, like like you can have this intimate thing for hours. It's like, no, that's not what this is. The thing with sexuality in Tantra is that Tantra does not reject sexuality as a path to reach the divine,
Okay.
which is why it's so different from other paths.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I think in the internet world, it just kind of got branded as like Tantra is about sex. Where like, I guess it's a much broader concept than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there is like sexual exercises, but like, honestly, I have never taught them to people because, in my opinion, which is a more classical view of it, you don't get to those exercises until you've been practicing Tantra for like years and
Sure.
years and years and years.
Like, we're going back to the guitar playing analogy, it's like you're playing a really wicked, ripping solo, but like, maybe not for beginners. Maybe a beginner won't nail this.
Yes, that's a great way to explain it. I like how you're likening all of this back to art and music.
Sure.
And stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because like, I guess art is like a form of spiritual exploration in its own way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just becomes like an easier way to talk about concepts people might not be familiar with, I think.
Like an accessible and relatable sort of way. Yeah.
So I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you about is when you're planning one of these events, kind of what goes into it? Like, are you following some kind of a template that comes from scriptures? Is it entirely your thing? Kind of some mix of the two?
So I pull. It's basically a mix from the two. I don't pull too much from scriptures or anything like that. I'll put different, depending on what kind of an event I'm doing, I'll put like practices that I've learned through my training into them sometimes. But mostly I try and listen to my intuition and what comes through me. A lot of the time, if I have an idea for something, kind of comes out of nowhere, but if I have an idea for something, I'm like, okay, these are the concepts that have come up. I write them all down, and then I sit and I meditate on it for a bit. And I make sure to be honoring the lineage that I came from, to like look into that, do some research on it. Then I sit and I meditate some more. I'm like, how am I going to make this my thing? Because I think it's important to continuously be developing on what I know and on Tantra itself. I don't think we need to be stuck in ancient ways with this kind of stuff. I think we're in a new age, and
well, and
it should
we're
adapt.
also on the other side of the world from where this originated, right?
Yes, exactly.
So like, I don't know that every concept applies to Western life.
Well, and then too, you can look at like, it's important to consider the history of it as well. What were the external influences going on when Tantra was coming to be? Were there ways that it was oppressed that it doesn't have to be oppressed now? A lot of it was practiced in secret because if people found out what you were doing, they're going to kill you. Well,
and it's still kind of a taboo thing to even do, right? Like,
yeah.
It feels awkward to talk about it sometimes, I guess.
I think for a lot of people, yeah. That's why, like, I pull a little bit from Neo-Tantra, but very little. I'm mostly rooted in classical Tantra.
Okay.
Neo-Tantra to me is basically just sacred sexuality, which is a completely different thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I was explaining my event to somebody recently, and they were like asking me about Tantra and how I teach and stuff. And I was like, I don't do the sex thing, like a lot of people think that that's what this is. And it's like, what's beautiful about it though, is that I am a deeply sensual, erotic person. And that comes through. And that's the beauty of Tantra.
Yeah.
Is the fact that you can be that way and come from your eroticism and pull from your sacral chakra energy and fill the room with it without engaging in those practices.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time it can be unsafe.
Yeah. Well, out in public for sure, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I had a list of questions here I did want to get into.
Absolutely.
So, I guess a good one to start with is you're talking about the Kali Yoga for the Kali Yuga. What's the Kali Yuga?
Yeah. I figured I was like, this is a stretch, but I like the wordplay of it.
Sure.
So the Kali Yuga is said to be the age that we're in now, in which we're like, it would be a lot to get into, but like they say in like the Vedantic sort of scriptures and stuff that we went through a time where like gods walked the earth and ruled the earth, and then we went through a time where gods and humans were together. And I'm bastardizing this
Yeah.
completely, but like now we're in a time where like the gods have kind of left humanity to their own devices, and it's associated with a lot of like misguidedness and desperation and stuff like that. So it's like, but it is at the same time a time for great expansion
Hmm.
and lessons.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I guess a lot of this stuff is pulling from kind of like Eastern Hindu philosophy, right?
Yep.
But like when you start talking about Hinduism, it's funny because like that's really a Western projection onto all of that going on in India, right? And it's, I don't know that we in the West tend to talk about these things in much detail, right? So when you're talking about like the yugas, these are like periods of thousands of years,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So like not like you're going to live to the end of the current one and
no.
like see the world when it gets better. It's like this is a fact of how the world is today.
Yeah. Yeah, you explained that really well.
I can read. So you keep talking about this lineage with the Kala Tantra yoga that you've done, and you went to a school for this kind of, right? Talk more about like what drove you to go do that? Because like lots of people get into spirituality and yoga. Not many people like go and do that like very seriously the way you did.
Yeah. So I actually, before I did that, I went through a like year-long tantra training course online, which is not my favorite way to do things, but it was still like it taught me a lot. And I've also done like little smaller ones, a lot of them studying more classical tantra as well. But I was like, okay, I need to get my yoga teacher training because people are consistently like, it's like, okay, tantra is one thing, but yoga is so much more accessible. So I just started like looking around, seeing what kind of stuff I could find in terms of blending tantra and yoga together. And I came across, it's called Durga's Tiger School. And it was the reason I picked it, honestly, was because I could not afford to fly to India. I could afford to fly to South America, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where is this?
In Ecuador.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where the school is. And it turned out to be so much more than just tantra and a yoga teacher training. So their whole philosophy is they're blending tantra, yoga, art, which is kind of like through theater. Like we did, the art portion was a lot of clowning, which is interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. They had this wonderful man who did not speak any English who would teach us how to like clown, basically, which it was amazing. And everybody loved those classes a lot. But another really key part to it was the shamanism aspect.
Because that's like a big thing in South America specifically.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And the lessons of everything always blend together, right? Like there was like spiritual concepts that were happening in India, and a reflection of the same thing was happening on the other side of the world, which to me speaks to the fact that there's universal truths about spirituality.
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting thing because you're taking a tradition that's from India and learning about it in a place where it's completely foreign, right? But like that's still a foreign place to you, right?
Yeah.
I think that just kind of speaks to like, yeah, it's very universal. Like
It
this
is
something
universal.
people everywhere are kind of like craving, right?
Totally. And I think that was part of why the woman who put the school together brought it there specifically. She felt called to Ecuador. Not everybody gets to learn from the woman who founded the school. Her name is Iris. And and she's actually a German woman. And she, right?
twist.
Yeah, I know. Like and there was a ton of people that were from Europe.
Okay.
I think I was there was maybe one American there and then another Canadian couple. And then that was like everybody else was from Europe. But Iris learned Kaula Tantra Yoga, which is the foundation of the whole thing, in India at the Kali Ashram. So it's a super ancient practice, and it has not changed. It's the exact same. You don't mess around with like different sort of poses and stuff. You do the same poses over and over and over and over again every single day for 6 weeks, sometimes twice a day, for 3 hours. It's a 3-hour long practice. Yeah. Which is more reflective of how yoga actually is in places like India and at the ashrams and stuff. They're doing yoga for hours.
Well, I guess that speaks to like what we started on, the difference between like Western yoga versus like, I said your kind of yoga, but it's not yours. It's what yoga is in its kind of traditional setting, where it's not like an exercise. It's like a way of life more, kind of in a way of speaking.
Absolutely. Yeah. True yoga, like asana practice, which is what we consider to be yoga here, is only one of like the 8 branches of yoga. And asana practice is actually designed in the traditional yogic sense for you to work out the body. And when I say work out, I don't mean like work out, like work out all of the yuck in the body in order to be able to sit in meditation for hours afterwards. So it's like it's a precursor practice to a lot of what yoga actually is, which is the meditative state. That's why I loved Kaula Tantra Yoga so much, because it is like the foundation of it is meditative. Like you're doing a pose, and then you're going and lying down in Shavasana, and you're doing a pose and you lie down in Shavasana, and you're doing a pose. Like it's not what we usually think of yoga as.
Well, and it's just because there are so many weird kind of misconceptions, and like, hey, if yoga is just like a workout routine for you, that's great. That's fine, right? Like do it. But like, you almost wish like the Western society came up with a different word for that, as opposed to like this other thing that's been going on for thousands of years on the other side of the world.
Yes, absolutely. But the thing is, though, is like I think what's important about yoga in the West is that if you do it and you surrender to yoga, then you may start to glean the lessons a little bit, as long as you have the right teachers, right? So it's like, you'll go to yoga as a workout class or to stretch out your body or to take care of your body or to honor yourself or whatever your intention with going to yoga is. And hopefully you leave with a little bit more of an essence of what yoga actually is, which is what happened to me. I had a really great teacher. He's like a dear, dear friend of mine, world-class yoga teacher. He lives in Toronto now, and he teaches yoga for his job. And he's my like first teacher. And he was the one who introduced that aspect of the consciousness of yoga to me. And I was like, okay, so, I went to yoga to tune into my spirituality, yes, but it turned into something completely different, which is the hope, right? Yeah.
Well, and I guess like you could speak to like the importance of having a teacher as opposed to like trying to learn it yourself from like books or online or something, right?
Yeah. Having a teacher is like a teacher that you really connect with is the best way to learn, because they'll see you, they'll challenge you and whatever. But it is, at the same time, it is good to do it by yourself, because then you are the teacher. That's kind of part of the aspect.
Yeah, and like trying to gain independence with it, I guess.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I mentioned in the post that you were talking about with like yoga and the cult of performance and stuff, is like with Kaula Tantra yoga, there's not much of a rail to hold. Like we tell you what posture to go into. And then I'm talking like philosophy and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not really like, I'm going to tell you to get into a pose and then I'm going to stop talking about the pose. I'm not going to talk to you about your alignment. I'm not going to talk to you about like, the best ways to get deeper into the pose, because I'm trying to create, and this is the foundation of Kaula Tantra Yoga in particular, creating a state of relaxation to open you up to integration. And when you are relaxed, you are able to find your own alignment, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're the teacher. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to some of these, because
Mm-hmm.
you brought something up here that kind of an interesting thing, because you're talking about in that post how like the lessons are going to reach your consciousness later,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my experience, because you did one of these events out here in 222 last year, I was there. It was brilliant. But it was one of these weird things where when I was leaving the room, I didn't necessarily feel the effects of it right away.
Mm-hmm.
But like the next day, it's like I woke up and like my whole body was like tingling, and you're like, what's going on? Like, and I like kind of kept doing that for like 2 weeks after that. It was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, yeah, it reaches your body later. And I think like the memory of the experience is kind of what's powerful, as opposed to like the experience itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is like, and that I keep going off track with these questions.
No, it's fine.
But
all the time in the world.
Yeah, good. Something that I learned at one of the first retreats I ever went to, and it was terrible. I would never, ever, I always tell people, I'm like, never go with this organization. But occasionally there are certain things that pop up in my consciousness. And one of the things that they talked about is that in these worlds, in the yoga world, in the Tantra world, especially in the Tantra world, people are constantly seeking peak experience, peak experience, peak experience. So they want to they leave this thing and this activity and they feel amazing. And it's like, I've opened up and whatever. And you see like a lot of this online where you see people like sobbing and like ecstatically in this place, which is great, but not every experience should be like that.
Yeah.
And
well, it's not a drug.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And integration is extremely important with this sort of stuff. So if you're going to have an experience like that, great, but make sure you integrate it. And that's what a lot of these practices are for. So I tried to create an experience with the last one where it's like, we're going to hit like a little bit of this peak, but we're also going to like integrate the lesson from it as we do it. And because of the subtlety of that, it's like a longer lasting sort of thing, which I learned through Kala Tantra Yoga. I'm still getting like realizations of things, and that was 2 years ago. So
well,
it stays with you.
You're still a young person, right?
Yeah.
Like I imagine, going to be having those realizations for the rest of your life, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Like it is that deep of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what got you into the idea after going through all this training of like, I want to start doing events for like a lot of people? Because like you're not exactly just teaching a yoga class. It's more than that.
Yes, absolutely. I think I went into Tantra school with the idea to do that. So I kind of like, I was like, I have experienced so much grace and so much ecstasy and bliss from this practice. I need to share it with people. So I'm going to go and I'm going to start getting education to back that up. But yeah, I love people. I love connection. I love what I've learned through these practices. So I thought it would be pertinent to bring these sorts of things to the West. And I know everybody says that, but like I wanted to take a different approach.
For the West.
Yeah, for the West. Like, we need it really bad.
It's a weird thing though, because like I think the West, recently kind of experienced the death of Christianity. And there's this like void that it left.
Yes.
Right? And it's not clear whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, but like something is maybe missing that was there for the last 300 years in this part of the world, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think when it comes to uh, the death of Christianity, I've read a lot of, because I love psychology as well. I work at a library, so I have lots of books and magazines and stuff to read. But I read an article recently on like the epidemic of loneliness and stuff that's been going on in the West, in America specifically, and it spoke to that. And it's like without churches and stuff, people are losing a sense of community. And I think that's the most important part of that void that's being left.
Yeah, like just having a place that you and everyone you know goes to once a week.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And I think this is like a way to kind of do that a little bit. I think people are really like crying out for community and connection with other people. And that's why we have such a dependence on like social media and like an online life, because people don't know where to go.
Yeah.
You know, like me, myself, I was, brought up in a time where there's no community groups that you actually want to go to. I don't want to bowl.
Exactly. Yeah. Not knocking the bowlers either. But
no, but not me personally.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, and this is something that I think about a lot, just in like, I heard someone say it a while ago, and it kind of was like obviously true, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so like for most of the history of humanity, kind of, there was no difference or like no distinction between the job of a doctor or the job of like a priest, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing. That was a shaman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever your issue is, right? If you're sick, your wife left you, your kid died, whatever, talk to the shaman. They'll, I don't know, grind up some herbs or whatever, and make you feel better. And over time, I think medicine kind of separated out from the spiritual part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's left this like kind of a no man's land in between them that we kind of call mental health. Because like, I think mental health is more of a spiritual, maybe talk to a priest about it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Not a priest, but hey, if that's your thing, talk to your priest.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know that this is something the medical industry handles particularly well.
Oh, God.
Right?
Oh.
And it's like, there's this weird gap in between these two things that sort of slowly came up, I guess, alongside the death of Christianity.
Yeah. That's a really cool observation, especially like linking those two things together. I think a lot of that as well, like health is holistic. You can't take care of your mental health without taking care of your physical health, and vice versa. And spirituality helps you with both.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I love about Tantra as well, because it's a non-dual philosophy, but it's also like we honor the poles of the non-duality. So it's
go
like,
back. What do you mean by non-dual? What are the duality that you're talking about here?
Yeah. So basically it's like there is no opposite.
Okay.
Right? There is no separation between one end of the pole and the other. There is no distinction between masculine and feminine. There is, but there's not.
Okay.
All like overarching as a whole. This is the way that I understand it. Way that it kind of makes sense in my brain, but non-duality is kind of where we get like the whole concept of we are one. But my favorite analogy with it is it's two sides of the same coin. So you have one coin. Okay. It's one thing. And you have two opposite sides, but they're not really that opposite. It's the yin yang. There's a little bit of this in this side and a little bit of that in that side, Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of last opportunity here. Just kind of what do you think people need to know about this event you've got coming up? Who should come? Who shouldn't come?
I'm like, everybody should come.
Everyone.
Always.
Yeah.
We all need this.
Yeah.
Which I do believe. But I think especially it speaks to people who are going through anything that you want to shed. Like, there's been a lot of talk of like the year of the snake. I'm always bringing that energy into my life. Serpentantra.
You are the
whatever.
snake.
Yeah, that's it, right? But that, anything that you feel like you need to shed, which if you're doing any sort of self-reflection, you will need to shed things. Nobody is perfect. This is a perfect opportunity for that because that's the energy of Kali Ma. But I've had so many people reach out and be like, I don't know what this is. I'm not necessarily like experienced with yoga or spirituality, and you don't have to be. Like, I teach pretty loosey-goosey. I'm like, I'll go into like advanced concepts, but I've gotten feedback that it was like, I'm like, yeah, beginners can do this. And people are like, that's not beginner. I can't do that.
Yeah. And I guess with yoga poses, that's particularly because like if it's tantric stuff, it's more like in your head. And like if you can't do it, you can act like you were.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
But like if you're the one person in the room who can't bend your body this way or whatever, that might feel a little awkward, right?
But yeah, so there's nothing in this. I've kind of wanted to design it in a way that is accessible for a lot of people because I think everybody kind of needs this work.
Yeah, and there's not much entry level stuff in this space, right? You get very quickly into like, oh, and the Sanskrit word for this is like,
yeah.
I don't what?
Yeah, right? Like I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the Sanskrit stuff.
And like have the content there, but don't start talking half in Sanskrit, right?
Yes, exactly, right? Like this, I'm not here to teach you about yoga.
Yeah. Or like don't come into it like with the expectation that you had to know this beforehand.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I think it is good for everybody to kind of look at their shadow, but nobody wants to do that. This is an interesting and gentle way to kind of do that. And then on top of it too, it's like you could come, I always say every Serpentantra event is an invitation. You want to show up and watch the band? Hell yeah, man. Do it. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
There's people in my yoga training who would just lie there the entire time. Like, just lie there. And then they could get up and they could teach it. Right? So it's like, there's no expectation of anything. And even if you just want to come and absorb the lessons and the energy, that's great too. And that's going to do something for you. It's not like it's not going to do anything for you. It will still do something for you. But yeah, it's like another thing that I liked about it is that it's very much an essence of myself because I've been in the music scene.
Yeah. And
I love music. It's just music brings me into a place of ecstasy that I can't get anywhere else. And so it's blending that, which is like my very particular taste in music, with something else that I love, which is yoga and tantra. So it appeals to like two very separate camps of people that I think could blend easier and better, right, than they already do. It's like there's a lot of similarities here.
Yeah.
So.
It just each of these groups I feel like have cultures where they maybe don't appreciate the other one so much, right? Like I feel like there's not much crossover between like the metal people and the yoga people,
right?
Which is weird because it's similar, right?
Yeah.
Like we were saying earlier, like art and spirituality are kind of the same thing. It's just the culture of like, no, I'm not doing that. You're like, you don't know what it is.
Yeah, right?
Right.
And that's what I want to bridge.
Yeah.
Because like, the part of this for me is like, and Kali energy in general is inner and outer rebellion. So like, why? Where is the judgment on that culture for you? Why is that there?
Yeah.
Have you delved into it and really fully immersed yourself into it without judgment to fully understand the lessons of it? You might dig it. Yeah. Like people who meet me in the music scene and I tell them this is what I do, they're like, that doesn't make sense. People who meet me in the yoga scene, because I am a little bit like more rough around the edges sometimes, they're like, they're like, oh, okay, this, I get it kind of, but that's not what I thought, right? Like it seems like these two things don't blend, but they really do if you surrender to them and embody them.
And like, because the one that I went to, admittingly, it was like the night before. I was like, I'm not doing anything tomorrow. Sure, why not? And I show up, I'm like, a little nerd, because it's like all these people you don't know.
Yeah.
There's a fox head on the bar at the back. I want to hear more about that, actually. But
I can tell you that.
Well, so, and like, you just sit down, and for me, it was like, okay, well, surrender to it. Like, I didn't expect it to be what it was. I don't want to like talk about all the details of that, because there's private stuff there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's worth trying for sure. And it's kind of you don't understand it until you see it, I think.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, as much as I'm like, no judgment, at the same time, I'm like,
everyone's naturally going to be at least a little judgmental, right?
100%. And it's super healthy to do that.
Sure.
And I'm a Virgo man. I am so judgmental. I say to people all the time, a lot of like spiritual folk that are around me, I keep a specific type of person, but I'm like, I say it all the time. I'm like, I hate spiritual men. I hate the yoga voice. I don't want anything to do with that, because to me it feels superficial and flimsy. That's
it's a
me
character
being
that you're playing.
Yeah, right? But that's me being judgmental.
Sure.
I've gone to these things and I'm like, oh, this is one of these people.
Well, but at least you're judging something you have experience with. Right? That's
and I've
the
still learned
difference.
lessons from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're terrible people. It's just not what you want to be around.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. This has been like the burning question in my head for the last year. What the fuck is the fox head? Because I walked in, I'm like, okay, there's like an altar. Okay. And that was like the thing you said was like, you can put an object on the altar to charge it. I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay. I grabbed a lens out of my camera bag and put it there.
Amazing.
And I was like, well, it was actually funny enough. It was a used lens. I'm like, I don't know what anyone's done with this. That's fine. Let's just cleanse it. Right?
Yeah.
No, and then the next day, it was like I forgot about it, and I reached into my camera bag and pulled it out, and it was like this, like electricity shot up my arm. I'm like, what the hell? Damn. I had a lot of what the hell moments following this event. I was like, okay, what is that? Because you didn't mention it at all in like any of the talking. You were just like, it's there. You can put something there. Like, okay.
Yeah, so, that's a really cool story. I have a friend who's always like, you got to pay attention to those things. She's way better at this than I am. She's like, you got to pay attention to how the universe is talking to you. You got to pay attention. Of light flickers in the room. She's like, see? Oh, I was right. Like, and she's great.
You can find meaning in anything like that, right?
Yes, but it's like,
hey, if you're finding meaning, go ahead, I guess.
Yeah, but I do think there's something to that.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I like it. And like, that's a great example of it, because it's like, why? Why would that happen for you? And, there is a lot of energy going on there. So it makes sense. And that's what it is. It's like you put, I've had items that I put on an altar. I'm like, because that's not really my thing. It's more of like a witchy spiritual thing. And I'm just like, I'll just throw this thing there. And then I'll wear, like, it's usually like jewelry or something, because I always have jewelry on. And then I'll wear it, and then something crazy will happen. And I'm like, oh, yeah, man, I forgot I wore that. And then, It's
because of what you were wearing. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah, or I've even done it on like a intense like shamanic medicine trip. And then I go out and something weird happens. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's the ayahuasca necklace.
That's what it was.
Yeah. But yeah, the fox head, I can explain that.
Okay.
Ties in actually very nicely. That is from my first teacher, Alex. There's a lot of lore around that fox head, but he actually gave it to my ex, who I'm still really good friends with the intention, like it was like a very special shamanic object to Alex at the time. And he gifted it to my ex and, was like, this will bring you healing. And he took it and had reverence for it. but it didn't mean as much to him as it meant to Alex. But he just like put it up in my space at the time, because I have a little altar in my record room, and he just put it up there. And when we broke up, he just left it there. And I was like, okay, sick.
It's mine now.
It's mine. I'm not giving that back because I like it and I appreciate it more than you do. No, I'm kidding. Everybody appreciates things in different ways, but and I called Alex after like this whole thing had happened, and I was like talking about it or whatever. And then he showed up to my very first event, and it was there, and he was like, I'm so happy you have that. Like, that was meant for you, whatever. Cool thing about it being a fox head and why I always bring it is because Kali Ma has always been my goddess. Kali Ma is what got me into Tantra. I had a lady do a reflexology thing on me, and she was like, the message I got from this whole thing is that you need to find a goddess to connect with. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. I found through reading a book about like tantric goddesses, I found Kali Ma, connected with that energy for some reason. And she's been with me every time. Proves herself. She don't need to, but she proves herself every time I call upon her. And I've studied a lot about goddesses, less so about gods, but I know about all of them. But each goddess within the Hindu kind of tantric pantheon is, they have different like qualities about them, but they also, each of them have an animal. And they have a location and a place or whatever. So Kali's animal is the jackal, which is basically like a coyote.
Okay.
And like it's like in that part of the world, it's their version of a coyote. And it's kind of like it's got that scavengery energy, and it's almost like a tetrivore sort of thing. You know what I mean? And the coyote and the fox are very linked and similar. Yeah. So to me, that fox skin represents my lineage with Alex, which started my journey with yoga. And it also represents Kali Ma. So, yeah.
I guess more broadly, I'm just asking about like, what is the altar? Like, it's an altar to Kali Ma? It's what? Just because it was like one of the only things that went completely undescribed. I'm like, what the heck is this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's an altar to the energy of the intention of the space.
Okay.
So essentially, a lot of times, anytime you're in a spiritual space, you'll usually see one. An altar is usually, like I said, dedicated to the energy of the practices that you're doing. So the event that you went to, Shadow Synthesis, was that altar I kind of built around shadow. So I had candles with fire. I had the fox skin, which represents for me Kali Ma, which is a shadowy, dark goddess sort of energy. Yeah, and different like statues and plants and things that were on there that were intended to evoke the shadow. So you put these things on the altar, and they are oftentimes a dedication to the people and the practice itself. But a lot of people do altars for offerings to gods and stuff too. So when you clear the altar, like when I cleared the altar, I kept the stuff and I offered it to the gods and stuff afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the intention of it. And then the intention of putting something on it is that like the altar is supposed to like mystical wise soak up the energy of the practice so that you can give that energy to the gods, and all of your stuff that's on there will also soak up the energy.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're going to close it there then.
Yeah.
Breah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. This was wonderful. I'm stoked to see who else you have on here and what else you'll talk about.
So check out Kali Yoga on what's the date?
March 22nd.
March 22nd.
Here
222.
at 222.